Ready? Okay. Good morning, everyone. At this time, I will call the Audit and Control Committee meeting to order for November 13th. We do have three members present currently. There's one that is on his way, constitutes a quorum. We do have a member that is with us virtually this morning via call-in. If everybody's had an opportunity to review the minutes from last meeting, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next item on our agenda this morning is privilege of the floor. Is there anyone that wishes to address the committee this morning? If so, please come down front. Not seeing anyone, we'll move into our proposed resolutions. The first resolution today is a tabled resolution, which we would need a motion to bring it off the floor if someone would choose to do so.
I'll make that motion.
And
Second it.
okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. It has been brought forward. We do have an amended version by substitution that is in front of us all this morning, and we will be reviewing that amended version. Comments, questions? Is there anyone to speak to this morning?
Mr. Chairman, this amended version brings into conformance the resolution with the existing county policy on transferring tax foreclosure parcels to municipalities.
And that's the reason we tabled it, is we wanted to make sure it was proper.
Correct. Yes.
To what extent was it not proper?
The original resolution suggested that we were transferring the parcel to the city for $1, which is not in conformance with existing county policy.
Okay. So there's a difference between $1 and no dollars.
Difference between $1 and paying the back taxes that are owed.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so you know, a little history there. Some of the properties that we may be seeing as a body coming forward are properties that have been sitting in a unknown stature or status. And is this one of those such properties as well?
Yes, this parcel, which was owned by a private individual or corporation, was paying taxes. They stopped paying the taxes, so the county foreclosed on the property because of unpaid taxes, and now it's being proposed that we transfer it to a municipality where it will be tax exempt. So our policy is, for that to happen, the municipality has to pay the unpaid back taxes.
Okay.
And is that the amount we see on the original resolution, the $20,520?
That was the amount at the time, yes, but the current year's taxes, I think, will be added to that, but I'm not positive of that. That will be determined by the real property tax office at the time the transfer is to occur.
Okay.
So the last resolved, the county executive authorized to negotiate additional terms and conditions. Keyword there is additional, above and beyond
Above and beyond the
that
policy.
20-odd thousand or whatever it is.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions, comments?
Go for it.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next proposed resolution, number 2, is authorizing settlement of claims of JB.
Good morning, Kristen Wright with the County Law Department.
Good morning.
The County had a claim against it and went through the steps of conducting depositions, getting information about the nature of the claim, the facts of the claim, the credibility of the claim, and after a thorough review of the situation, has recommended that this claim be settled for the amount stated in the resolution.
Okay. Questions, comments for anyone? Obviously, can be a sensitive matter, so it's obviously the information that we have in front of us is almost maybe all that you can tell us about the situation.
It is a sensitive matter. I can say that the county, this will be paid for by the county. This is not something that's covered by insurance. It is an old claim, very dated, and very sensitive and serious in nature.
Okay. If it's
How,
old,
how old is this?
I believe it was the 70s that the alleged,
1970s?
yes.
Wow, and how does it, okay. How does it happen that it is coming to our attention 50-odd years later?
So New York State has allowed certain time periods for initiating certain types of claims, and the window for making claims of some types has been changed over time, and to say, well, people who've had things occur in their childhood sometimes have an extended time now to file a claim, and so this claim was filed within the time period that is now allowed.
Is the county taking a position, or what is the position of the county as to whether or not this abuse occurred?
If the county felt there was, the county's not admitting anything and settling it, but part of it is, how credible do you think the witness will appear on the stand? What are the facts that we've learned in the depositions? And it's really a judgment call. If we felt it clear that no jury would be sympathetic to this person up in front of them, then we wouldn't be so likely to settle a claim. But sometimes it's, how do we think a jury might react to this? And so we look at what we have in our facts, and that's how the decision is made to recommend an appropriate settlement amount, also taking into consideration, you have the potential for $0, but you also have a potential for a very high dollar amount. Also taking into consideration the cost of litigation. So even if, we felt this wasn't a super strong case, we'd have to consider how much will it be costing to settle this in our favor through litigation.
No, I understand the probabilistic and actuarial kind of logic that goes into these things, but, and it's so old that you probably can't say, but I've always believed that defendants in these kind of things ought to give a great deal of weight to what the defendant thinks the actual facts are.
Correct.
And if the facts were in the defendant's opinion, on the defendant's side, I'm generally up for taking the actuarial risk.
That was factored into this recommendation.
I have a question. So the county is liable for something that happened while there was somebody in foster care?
Yes, depending on the nature of the claim, but it can be that the county, there's potential for the county to be liable.
Okay.
Lack of supervision or something, or what?
I don't know the details.
Because it wasn't a county home, was it, or anything?
I don't know the details of this claim. I'm here for Anna Morgan, so I know the information she gave me, but I don't know the specifics
Well,
of what came out in the
Okay.
depositions.
Anyway,
she probably said there'd be no questions, so you'd be able to just go and.
Well, no, and the depositions have some confidentiality as well, so.
No, I understand that.
Yeah, okay.
No, and as much as we can ask questions regarding the situation here, and You know, I guess we have to just have the faith that the law department's done their due diligence in this, and if this is what they're proposing, then I'm supporting it. And I think that, so with the nature of it being such an old case, I guess some closure to the parties involved is a good thing, and maybe this can be put to rest, and we can have the closure that both parties need, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
And I'll
guess my-
just add,
Yeah.
I'll just add, we don't take payment of claims lightly as a county. You know, we are not willing to fight the fight when we feel that that's in the best interest of the county.
And then and also when you're right.
When you feel that those decision makers will conclude that you're right.
Any other questions or comments? Not hearing any. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next proposed resolution, number 3, is amend the 2025 budget interest adjustments. If you notice, the title has been amended and, well, it's been adjusted as a typo mistake, so. Anyone to speak to this resolution this morning? Thank you.
Good morning, Kitty Crow, Director of Finance. This resolution is just to correct the budget to move the budgeted amount into the correct account for the interest. At the time the budget was prepared, the county was had a ban in place and was paying interest on it, but we've subsequently issued the bonds, and so the proper account would be the 9710 account for interest expense.
Questions, comments? Not hearing any. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? It is carried. Next proposed resolution is number 4, is the distribution of mortgage taxes.
So this is a standard resolution to pass on the mortgage tax to the municipalities. Just as an aside, in terms of mortgage tax receipts to date, through the calendar year, January to October of this year compared to last year, we are trending about 5% ahead of last year's figures. However, that is still falling short of what we had budgeted for this calendar year. Assuming the same 5% applied to last year's November and December receipts, you know, we might fall short about $100,000 from what we budgeted. We did reduce next year's budget for the mortgage taxes.
It's always a tough area to forecast. I know the market's been a little bumpy. I think hopefully we can see a change in the interest rates that may help promote someone considering purchasing a house, or actually being able to afford the mortgage. A lot of times the interest rates is a really big driver of a payment. It can make a payment a few $100s higher in some cases or more. So
Yes. We're still trending higher than we had been, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. We're still higher, but we had kind of peaked and we're kind of leveling out right now, I think so.
do most of these municipalities set budgets based on what we expect, or is it kind of a mix across the board?
I don't really have a sense of how they derive their budgets for mortgage tax receipts. I know for sales tax, occasionally a municipality will call me and ask, what % increase we're, looking at for, our county budget. But I can't say I've ever gotten a call about what we're budgeting for mortgage tax, so.
Yeah, some places it's not as significant as others,
Yeah.
but others, do receive a pretty fair share, so it's
Yeah.
yeah. Questions?
Yeah, I have a question, Mr. Chairman. What percentage goes back to the town or village? Does the total amount, or?
Sorry, that, I don't recall that off the top of my head, but I can get back to you on that.
Okay, thanks.
It's not the total amount, it's a
No.
percentage, right?
Yes.
Yes, so it's, to answer the question, I know it's not the total amount.
Right.
They're receiving a percentage of what is,
Well, it says all monies, and I agree, I thought it was a percentage.
correct, it says, the distribution to said municipalities of all monies meaning of their portion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we have to, are we state mandated to have a mortgage tax in the first place? I mean, where I'm going is why this form of taxation, which kind of puts sand in the gears of progress as opposed to some other form of taxation?
Yeah, I think we had some conversation on this at one point. I don't have all those answers right off the top of my head, but we can have a discussion on that
Oh,
in
yeah.
the future.
It seems like the
Is it,
last discussion we had on it was the percentage, not whether we had to or, I don't know what it's worth me. making that
I believe
comment,
I have the information back in my office, I just don't have it off the top of my head.
One-
fair enough.
I remember the conversation, but I frankly, I was happy with the resolve that we came up with, but I don't really remember what it was.
I thought it was over the percentage or
Could be,
something.
yeah, I just have seen so much since then that I just really don't remember, but, agreed, I maybe, instead of all monies, it maybe should say distribution to said municipalities share due to pursuant to said act,
Yeah, I mean, there's a local law and there's a state law, so I
Yeah.
can forward those on to you.
Okay. Questions, comments, others?
Where does it say all monies?
About mid-paragraph.
Yeah, the
It
one,
says
two, three,
Of all
fourth line
monies
down.
due,
Mhm.
so it's not
Oh,
just
okay.
all monies, it's all
Understood.
that's due to the municipality.
Mhm.
Yeah, so my question is, okay, if we've collected it, then the state says has an input as to how we distribute it. My only question is, does the state say we have to have the tax in the first place? And,
I don't believe so, I think it allows us to have it, but I don't think it requires it, but I will
Okay.
forward on the local law and the state
Thank you.
law.
Seems to me that you were questioning it last time, too. I do maybe remember that
Yeah.
much
Yeah.
of it.
Well, it's one of those things, it's a tax, and it's
Yeah.
tax, but it's after the fact, you've bought your house and you're signing papers, and all of a sudden, you're like,
yeah, okay, I
oh,
remember this, yeah.
I've got this to, and I don't know if it factors into whether or not you buy a house, and,
But,
you know,
well,
I
no,
don't remember
and,
thinking about it.
and in our conversation at the time was it so minuscule that, it was not a deciding factor.
Yeah, because we
Sure
wouldn't,
wasn't.
we want people to,
Yeah, no, and it
Purchase
was.
properties.
It's not a surprise, it's
Yeah, it
figured
wasn't.
into your closing costs.
Yeah,
Right.
and what we had decided too was it actually goes to payment of services rendered to a point of work that the departments are doing and
The
the
county's
offices are
share
doing.
is used toward the repayment of debt,
Mhm.
so it's dedicated for that purpose.
And I know at times we're concerned, but here's municipalities getting revenue.
That's right.
Right.
And,
Let's not lose track of that.
and they are getting, their, whatever it is,
yep, agreed.
Okay. If there's no other questions, we'll take a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? It is carried. Thank you. Next proposed resolution number 5 is to authorize lease agreement with City of Jamestown for office space for Chautauqua County Department of Mental Hygiene and Social Services.
Carmelo Hernandez, Commissioner of Mental Hygiene and Social Services.
Blake Ehrig, Director of Administrative Services.
Good morning. And this is for a lease in City Hall on the third floor to have our homeless team, individuals in the Family Center Case Management Team, along with our mobile crisis team, co-located in one central location to help operationalize and also give us a good strategic standpoint for what we're dealing with on both sides of the aisle when it comes to our behavioral health situations that are arising and also with our increase in the homeless population.
Is this a consolidation of places, or is this a net increase of square footage leased by the county?
The mobile crisis team currently is at Warwick, so they will be leaving the Warwick and coming into one location. So we will no longer have the location at Warwick with the mobile crisis team.
So we're about a wash in terms of lease expense in
Yes.
total?
Yes.
Okay.
Other questions or comments? Is there, do you have the furniture abilities to move from one location to the other, or you be adding any expenses, your knowledge, or?
For the homeless team, we were able to claim it from the state and able to claim it from the budget that we were given from the state for that specific program. Mobile crisis team is bringing their furniture.
Okay. So don't expect too many other expenses and stuff like that, so.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next proposed resolution is number 6. It's to authorize agreement with New York State DOT for performance of federal aid project, PIN number 576530.
Good morning. Drew Rogers, Deputy Director of Public Facilities.
Chad Marks, Deputy Director of Finance for DPF.
What do we have in front of us, gentlemen?
This resolution is to authorize entering into agreement with New York State DOT for a project to replace the superstructure on County Bridge 920, which is over the Western New York PA Railroad on Baker Street Extension near Cummins, near the entrance to Cummins. This project is funded through the Bridge New York program. It consists of 95% federal funding with a 5% local match. This resolution authorizes entering into the engineering phase of the project, which is the $350,000 noted in the resolution, and it's part of an overall $2.5 million project.
So we're proposing the $350,000 to be spent to design what's gonna take place, study it and design it.
Yep. Yep, it's all the environmental studies, engineering reports, preliminary design, final design.
Questions, comments?
Will this have any kind of impact on Cummings Engine while they're rebuilding the bridge?
It would potentially have impact from people coming in to and from with a detour. We're not at that,
Yeah,
at that
we're not there
phase
yet,
yet,
yeah.
but I would anticipate that there would be impacts to anybody traveling on that portion of the road.
How hard, or how much risk is there on the $2.5 million number? In other words, if we're going to spend $350 to begin a $2.5 million project, I don't want to wake up and find that the 2.5 became 4. And then, so what did I spend the 350 for then?
Right. We're awarded the 2.5. Anything beyond that, we would have to come up with a funding source for. So everything within the project is going to be to get it done for that amount of money. So
What other funding sources might that be if you,
we would have to either have to look for a funding source, come back to this body and ask for additional local funds, or we could potentially use our CHIPS allocation to fund part or some of the project.
Okay, so yeah,
Just a little history too, I guess, is how do we come across that initial number? How do we set that? If we think it's light, why don't we just set it at 3 million? You know, why can't we do that? And how's that determined?
We, for the Bridge New York program, we go through an application process, and our bridge engineer goes through the inspection reports, determines what the needs are, and develops a kind of a first look at what design we would need going forward, and puts together an estimate based off of the current construction pricing at the time, and submits that to the state, and it goes through a review committee. So everything that we've put in that says what the condition is, what the recommended treatment is, and along with the cost. So that all gets reviewed as part of that process. And I know our bridge engineer has been on those review committees before, so he knows kind of what the going pricing is, and you can tell if something's not in line with the proposed treatment for the bridge.
Understood, yeah. So, you know, just the years of experience to go on market, and you look at this project, and you say, well, realistically, 2.5 million is going to be the number. If it's 2.2 million, great, we're under budget. If it's 2.6, well, we're over just a little bit. So, but the hope is that's gonna cover the project.
Correct.
yeah. I mean, exactly, we're making a $2.5 million decision here, because we really don't want to make a decision to write off 350.
Right.
And so, you know, nobody's going to be happy if somebody comes back here and says the local share needs to jump to $500,000 because X, Y, Z.
Correct.
Questions?
No, yeah, is there a schedule that, for bridges that, like, do we say, okay, every 5 years we're gonna look at this, or engineers are gonna look at this and say, this is something we need to rebuild, or how do we, how
Most
does
of
it
it
happen?
comes through the bridge inspection that we
Okay.
get. The DOT has a program, and they go through and inspect all the bridges. And if there's any deficiencies or any issues with the bridge, we'll get flags. And the flags have different levels. And if, you know, a bridge has been seen to have experienced rapid deterioration or other issues, then, you know, you could hit the worst, which would be like a red flag, where you kind of got to close the bridge or close part of the bridge. So it's the kind of the history of the bridge where it kind of leads us to these things, both with our in-house bridge projects, and then these larger projects that we can't do with our own forces, kind of go about it the same way. It's just the history of the structure.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Not hearing any. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is carried. Thank you. Next proposed resolution number 7 is to amend the 2025 budget for public health. Good morning, everyone. If you just introduce yourselves for us
Good
all.
morning. Diana Songer, Deputy Director of Finance for Human Services.
Mike Falk, Chief Medical Officer.
Lacey Wilson, Public Health Director.
This resolution is to amend the 2025 budget for public health due to some expenditures exceeding their budgets while others have a surplus. We are requesting authorization to increase appropriations $540,000 and decrease appropriation in the same amount. And this is a budget neutral resolution.
Okay. Questions, comments?
$540,000 is roughly what percent of the total? What percent kind of misses this?
I would have to look into that. I don't have that number.
If I can throw off the cuff, it's fairly small in sense of some of the programs that you see. So the jails clinics is 300,000 adjustment of $1 million some dollar project. You know, the early intervention program is a pretty extensive program. How much would you guess that that total expense for that is?
Yeah, it would, yeah.
Couple you know, and that's, I mean, if it's a couple $1 million, then it's gone over a bit, you know,
The
but,
whole budget for jail medical is approaching 2 million.
yeah. Some good discussion that we did have last night that I'll share with you, Fred, is that we did, you know, one thing that Dr. Falk will be looking into moving forward is just some ways to help control some of the expenses, so we don't annually see these overages, because last year, I believe, we saw a similar overage, and we are seeing it again this year. And we have just some rising costs and sense of the needs at the clinic that are necessary, but hopefully with some in-house remedying and adjusting and still doing the same thing, but in a different way, hopefully we could help mitigate some expenses there. But we are seeing an increase in productivity and services that are, the money is being well utilized in the sense of,
I can expand upon that a little bit. We, in 2025 so far, we've had a sharp increase in demand for medication-assisted treatment services within the county jail. Medication-assisted treatment is specific treatment for opioid use disorder, alcohol use disorder. We had a rise in the census earlier in the year within the county jail. We have seen more individuals coming in from the community into the jail with a diagnosis of opioid use disorder and alcohol use disorder. So the demand has increased very quickly and sharply, and we've also been more efficient in getting individuals on treatment quicker. So, you know, as a reminder, we were mandated by the state in late 2022 to provide this service at the jail. We've learned a lot within the last 3 years of doing this. I guess almost 3 years now. And operationally, it was not a very simple task to accomplish. We started off slowly, but we've ramped up our pace and efficiencies. And, you know, we would not have been able to predict in 2024, you know, the demand in services in 2025. And so that is, you know, that $300,000 overage really is medication-assisted treatment medications. Those medications that we use are approximately $1,500 a month per person that are on the program.
And this is mandated.
That particular medication is not. The injectable form is not mandated necessarily. Many jails across the state utilize long-acting injectables. We made the decision, Cattaraugus County made a decision as well to utilize primarily long-acting injectables from an operational standpoint. As you can imagine, it is very difficult to administer controlled substances within a jail. Diversion risk is high, security issues.
Absolutely.
Right now, we need to move individuals that are getting this medication from one location in the jail to another location in the jail. We have 65 individuals on medication-assisted treatment. So doing the math, you know, probably 50 of those or 55 of those probably are on long-acting injectable medications every month. So,
And that's the $1,500
yeah.
a month.
Which is
pop.
why our budget, you know, for 2026 is roughly, you know, $800,000 for MAP medications. We have had recent discussions with the sheriff, the undersheriff, and the warden about moving away from long-acting injectables and going to oral administration. These discussions are preliminary. The consensus is that we'd like to move in that direction. We Right now, and for 2026 budget, we have $750,000 of opioid settlement funds that we can use to offset this cost, but those funds are not going to last forever. We have to start making some fiscally responsible decisions now to figure out operationally how we can safely administer these medications in an oral form as opposed to an injectable form.
Yeah.
So, we are working with the sheriff's office and correctional staff to try to figure out how we do that. We are confident that we will be able to make some significant strides in 2026 in helping to reduce those costs. We would love to be able to have the opportunity to utilize the opioid settlement funds for other things besides, MAT medications. The efficacy of oral medications will be just as good as the injectables, but we have to be able to do it safely within that environment.
Sure.
And that, operationally, that's gonna be the biggest challenge. So that's what we're moving towards.
You've got operational costs, you've got drug costs, and you're trying to get the best overall bang for buck, and that's absolutely right. Just editorial comment, if some person, and I know there's a mandate, if some person decides to violate the law and get themselves addicted on an opioid or heroin or cocaine or whatever, I am not terribly sympathetic to their plight when they're in the jail. But the state mandated what it mandated.
I will say law enforcement does their job very well. There are Monday mornings that we come in, and over the weekend, we've had, 10 individuals coming in that have a diagnosis of opioid use disorder or alcohol use disorder. And we're, tackling those individuals pretty quickly to get them the appropriate treatment. But the understanding that, a lot of these folks are only in the jail for days to a couple weeks at a time.
Who makes
So we
that
need to get on
diagnosis?
top of them quickly so that when they get back out into the community, they have resources, connections, and active treatment to prevent them from coming back into the jail or worse. What's that?
Who makes the diagnosis?
So it may have already been established. So our correctional staff have a series of questions that are asked when individuals come into the jail. Nursing staff evaluates these individuals every day when they come in. And most of these individuals who have an opioid use disorder will be withdrawing pretty significantly, so it's not hard to recognize. So those diagnoses are made. Once somebody is identified as having an opioid use disorder or an active withdrawal, then myself or the other doc are alerted, and we take action appropriately. I will say, we have spent a lot of money on medications over the last 3 years. What we don't have a full understanding of are the downstream savings that we've realized. We don't have that data. Decreased recidivism, decreased opioid overdoses and deaths, decreased hospitalizations and medical comorbidities that go along with that. We've heard a lot of great success stories anecdotally. And a lot of these individuals are in a much better spot after treatment, during treatment, and when they get released back into the community. Unfortunately, many of them are lost to follow-up, and we don't have that data necessarily, but we do know that we're making a difference. So even though, we as a county have spent, X number of dollars, I believe that there's good literature across the country to suggest that these programs make a big difference, for taxpayers and for communities, and most importantly, for those individuals affected. We just don't have the data in Chautauqua County to demonstrate that, unfortunately, but I'm confident that we are.
There are some things being put in place to be able to collect that data locally so that we can show specifically that return on investment. And that's, this group has been supportive of the Sheriff's Hub. And that is specifically speaking to that continuum of care that Dr. Falk was just speaking out. Traditionally, after release, there is no follow-up. not in Chautauqua County any longer. There is the opportunity, and that connection is being made before even release with the CARES Hub. So we do have the opportunity to follow up and ensure, more so than we ever have before, that people are seeking treatment afterwards, so that the good things that have started continue into the community to reduce recidivism and costs to the community at large.
And I would think, broader, bigger studies in other places that are similar to Chautauqua County ought to be a pretty reliable, or as reliable as possible, index to what the impact is on downstream recidivism and what have you.
Yeah, there's certainly an evidence base out there. In the public health world, we always say, one community, when you've seen one community, you've seen one community. Because there are so many individual, variables and things like that, but we rely on those evidence-based models to drive our decision-making, because they are driven, by data, and there's a basis of data there. So we do have that certainty, but we certainly do appreciate having our own local data to then drive that next level of decision-making, specifically here for our residents and taxpayer dollars here.
A question that I would have is that, when an individual is released, they had it in the sense that the medicine was really hand delivered to them, and they had it easily, and it was a distribution too. It wasn't an expense to them or an error. How does someone continue that outside of the facility? That way, what are their means? And like, what if they can't afford it or don't have a doctor or XYZ? How do they get it?
Yeah, so we're required, and required by the state, but also it makes good sense to provide a bridge prescription for these individuals upon release. Those receiving the injection will have, 1 to 4 weeks to get a follow-up. If we know of a scheduled release, we have a post-release planner who specifically arranges follow-up for these individuals. They know exactly where they're going and the time they're going. If they need a prescription for oral medications, we'll send that to the pharmacy so they can pick that up. We also utilize pretty heavily New York Matters, which is a statewide program. Everybody is released with a business card with a 1-800 number on it. If they have an unscheduled release, they know from the get-go to call that 1-800 number. They have funds available to provide medications for individuals if they cannot pay. And the other thing that we also, and they'll also make scheduled appointments for them within a 2-week period. And the other thing that we do for those individuals that have scheduled releases is work with them to try to make sure their health insurance is reactivated upon release. So for those individuals utilizing Medicaid, once they're out of the jail, that kicks back in again, and they can get their medications funded that way.
You bring up a really great point as well about primary care. Some of the data that is being collected now specifically asks, do they have a primary care physician? As you can imagine, many don't. And so when we're talking about not only just treatment, MAT treatments, we're really talking about a whole person and the health of an entire person, and we want them to be productive in our community. So having that consistent preventive primary care is important as well, and it links directly into their MAT treatment. So that is something, again, that is being, as a priority focus right now upon discharge, and with the hub, that we're connecting them with primary care physicians and ensuring that there's continued follow-up care.
Understood. And Dr. Falk said it, you have them supplied for a month, a couple of weeks, and that's what happens in 3 months, and that's what happens after that, and that's, I think, the primary care follow-up is very important, or that connection.
Yeah, and those resources that are available to us post-release are limited.
Understood.
The hub, we try very hard with the hub, but, we could envision perhaps some utilization of opioid settlement funds to help with that transition. Perhaps we have some some case management staff, care coordination staff that, you know, really takes to, you know, ensuring good follow-up for these individuals, and then collecting the data on top of it. It may be a good use for some of those funds. So we'll, you know, that's a work in progress, just a, you know, kind of random ideas, but,
Well, and have a clear path, right? Look, this is a path that you can take, and it's been set up, and these are some providers that will accept you and continue your care. If they don't have that either, and we haven't developed something like that for them, it's not as easy for someone to develop. So it's still, after 2 or 3 weeks, it's a choice for someone to continue down that path, so. But
Yeah.
if we have a nice, easy laid street for them, maybe they'll stay on it, you
You
know?
are thinking like a public health interventionist.
So,
Mr. Havelock, yes,
Well,
this is exactly what we work for.
yeah. If they have to climb a mountain, they aren't gonna do it,
And
and
we
then
try to
you'll
make-
see them again.
Yeah, we try to make the good choice, the healthy choice, the easiest choice.
So, again, a little bit more right-wing here, but I always worry in this kind of thing generally, that when you're trying to solve a problem, you enable the problem. If an individual, for whatever reason, has decided to misbehave, if in the process of being humanitarian, we make the penalty for that misbehavior lower and therefore enable it, we've gone backwards. And so there's always, I think, a trade-off here, and that's the territory I wouldn't want to go.
Very much understood, and I think the, you know, just again, personal experience working in this field is that typically when people have gotten to the point of needing such high-level intervention, the consequences they have paid are so high that that alone has sort of been a deterrent to them. They sort of have paid a major penalty that they weren't choosing that penalty when the addiction started. There were other choices that they were making that they prioritized. So when they experience the downfalls of what addiction like this, you know, brings with it, that often is more of a penalty than what we could even enforce in a lot of ways.
Sure, absolutely.
And so at that point, that is really where in a behavior change cycle and spectrum is where we see that readiness for people to change once they've really experienced that downfall and that penalty. And that's where we're really trying to intervene and say, okay, if you're ready, here are the resources, you know, we want you to be productive and integrated back into our community. And the other thing that, you know, from a population health level that we have to consider, a number of people that we see or come up through a system have been exposed not necessarily because of their own choice. So children in utero, and things like that. It's not always an adult making a choice. And so when we build out these programs, we're thinking about an entire population of people, or somebody who, you know, worked construction and, you know, had a major hip break because of, you know, heavy machinery and were prescribed opiates, and it just, you know, spirals from there. Moms of, you know, who had traumatic labor and delivery and were prescribed opiates and, you know, couldn't recover after that. So there's, in that population, there is a whole mix of people that we're trying to serve. So, yeah, we try to think really carefully and use those evidence-based, data-driven systems to ensure that we aren't enabling choices and encouraging behavior, but that we're really
Unintentionally encouraged.
unintentionally, yeah, but that we're really trying to target the most effective forms of intervention to really, you know, bring about better solution and better result.
Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, I have a question for Dr. Falk. You mentioned that the settlement funds won't be available forever. Is there any way to predict how long they will be available?
well, it is a little bit tough to predict because those suits are still occurring and still, those funds are still rolling through to the counties and the states. We know that at least, and maybe, you know, Kitty probably doesn't have those numbers, you know, right in front of her, but, you know, we have they're sort of front-loaded those first few years, so we know that we have that $750,000 for 2026 available, but they tail off pretty quickly after that. So, I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but, they're changing all the time.
I can add that, as Dr. Falk mentioned, some of the settlements included like upfront one-time payments. But of the information that we have to date, after another year or two, our annual payments are projected to be about $200,000 a year. And that goes out for like the next 20 years or whatever in some cases. But a lot of the settlement agreements have incentives for them to pay early, so it's a little bit hard to, we don't know what our payment's gonna be until we get it sometimes, but, what we can count on, I believe, is about $200,000 a year.
Any other questions? I just have one final comment, and then we'll go to vote, is that, I just wanted to applaud the good work and proper management of the other areas of discussion here. This is a budget neutral amendment in the sense that we were able to utilize funds and overtures from other accounts that were under budget. So, thank you for the work in those areas and being able to have those funds available to cover overages and others. So, good job in those other areas. So, and also the areas that are in question, budgets are tough to stay in sometimes with parameters as such. So, nothing against those others either. Good work on those as well. Just, we got to pay for it. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next proposed resolution is number 8, is to amend the 2025 budget for Veterans Service Agency.
Diana Songer, Deputy Director of Finance for Human Services. This is to amend the budget for, similar as the last one, expenditures that exceeded the budgets while others have a surplus. We're requesting authorization to increase appropriations by $12,600 and decrease appropriations in the same amount. The reason for the overage is that the rent used to be offset by the Dwyer program. We've talked about many times in different meetings. That's come to an end, so now that this is the increase. Thankfully, there was a savings in the employee benefits, so we were able to offset it with that, so this is a budget neutral resolution.
Oh, thank you. Questions, comments? Not hearing any. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Dan?
Next proposed resolution is number 9. It's to authorize acceptance of the Univera Award to Chautauqua County Office for Aging Services for the evidence-based wellness programming.
Good morning, Dana Corwin, Director, Chautauqua County Office for Aging Services. So the resolution is some work that we did in applications about a year ago that have come to fruition to the amount of $5,000 that's to be applied to our health and wellness program.
Questions, comments? Well, not hearing any. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Next proposed resolution, number 10, is to request the inclusion of construction of Phase 1 of proposed new JCC Wellness Complex in SUNY's capital request for the 2026-2027 executive budget.
Oh, okay.
Good morning, everyone. We welcome you to the meeting this morning. What do we have in front of us? If you introduce yourselves first.
Good morning. I'm Dean Odemar, President of Jamestown Community College.
I'm Kathleen Dennison. I'm the Interim Executive Director of Administrative Services for Jamestown Community College.
And I'm Melinda White, the Director of Finance and Operations for the Y.
So we are obviously here on behalf of the joint JCC-YMCA project, and we're here to ask this morning for your support to move the project forward in phases. And to begin in the first phase with the JCC portions of the project. So the first part of the request is breaking the project into phases, and then the follow-on is for the funding to follow in those phases mode. Just to recap briefly, the project that we presented to you about a year ago this time is still the project today with no significant changes. It's a $45 million project. It includes about 70,000 square feet of space, with half of that being a newly constructed YMCA building that would sit adjacent to our physical education complex, and then new space that connects the Y building with our building. What has changed since the last time we met, the project has an identity. We are calling it the J, the capital J-A-Y, that I think pulls together very nicely the two entities in who we are, the Jamestown Area YMCA and the JCC Jayhawk connection. And thanks to your support a year ago, the SUNY did include at our request funding for the design portion of the project, and we have those funds committed. But in order for us to keep the project moving forward, we're here today to ask for your approval to move forward in phases, beginning with the JCC portions.
Thank you for the information and update, and I, wanted to just briefly respond to and say that, it's great to see the continued collaboration between the two organizations and the couple community partners that are working together to make this come to life. It's been a project. There's been several ideas for both agencies throughout the last several years, so the collaboration is really great, and to see it's at this stage still working together. A lot of moving parts and pieces. So, great collaboration, and hopefully the real winners out of the whole situation are the community members and end users, and so that'll be great. Questions, comments?
Mr. Chairman, the Planning and Economic Development Committee last evening received a presentation on these two resolutions also, and I would like to point out that the chair of the YMCA Board of Directors, George Pandabianco, did a wonderful job of explaining the Y's position with this project, their plans for this project, and to me, most importantly, their commitment to this project. So what we have in place now is that SUNY has committed funding for their portion of the design. The JCC board is committing their portion of the design, and they're now asking us to commit our portion of their portion of the design. But what George pointed out very strongly last night and very clearly is that the Y has committed their portion of the design, the cost of the design. So the entire project design is going forward, and now we're being asked to commit our portion of that, which is 1/4 of 1/2 of the total design cost. But it was important to me to hear the commitment from the Y of their commitment to the project, their plans for the project, and the understanding of the phased approach that we are being asked to support now.
No, and thank you. That's a great point. And since that earlier in this debate, meeting, we had questioned a study of $350,000 for a bridge. So this in a sense is a $12 million proposition. And so it's great that all of the parties at B are bringing forth their part of the funding, in sense that it is a commitment, because it's a big commitment, and it's not just a small amount that each party is looking to contribute. So the vitality of it coming to fruition after this is obviously strong, because otherwise we wouldn't be investing this much into it at this stage either. So, yeah. Hopefully. You never know. Hopefully, we don't find any asbestos or any creepy crawly things or damage.
Or the stock market doesn't go to the devil in the middle of it.
Interest rates are better and better. And
Yeah, no, I look forward to it. I think it's a
Good
great
project.
project, and I'm excited about it, so.
And the phasing from last night, I was there last night, the phasing's intelligent. So even if things go to heck down the road, we can still get a ball field out of it at a reasonable cost.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Bob, it looks like you're sitting at the edge of your seat for some reason.
I'm trying to think how I can say what I want. My vote in favor of this last year was the completion of the entire project.
Sure.
JCC's part and the Y's part. I'm feeling more confident hearing Pierre being positive about the Y. Not that I was negative about the Y, but just to make it clear, the design has to happen. I realize that, but I'm still interested to see. I thought it was kind of a, I don't know how to classify it, but it's a pretty big lift for the Y, for their part of the project. And I'm not gonna lie and say I didn't have some concerns about that, and I still do, but yet the design has to happen, I realize, going forward. It's just, I'm gonna be curious to the overall outcome. I'm positive, no, I'm not optimistic, but I'm trying to, it needs to keep going. And so, yeah, I'll be voting in favor of this, that it keeps going, but it'll be interesting to see the final result. And that's all I'm gonna say. Thank you very much. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. I knew you'd say yes, even if it didn't.
No,
No,
it
I don't
makes
mean,
sense.
I don't mean that about you, I mean.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
Well, and one exhibit that was presented last night to the planning committee was the YMCA's plan for raising its part of the money.
Okay.
Do you have a spare?
Yeah.
I'll take
I don't know if that's guarded optimism or courageous pessimism.
I'll take one. Sure, thank you. Did you get one?
And
Pat?
I didn't
No, I
mean
didn't.
to
I got
bring a
one last
negative
night.
spin into
I
this.
got one last night.
Thank you.
No, that's kind of smart the way they've done it.
No, and, you know, I think the reserve of the body last year was, you know, there was a lot of things that needed to come to fruition, and a lot of unknowns, but it's, you know, welcoming that the path is still being, taken, in the sense that, you know, things are continually falling in place in a positive way, so hopefully that will continue. And you know, the hope is that all the funding sources become present.
And the judge made the point last night very well, I think Pierre said, in that we all are pulling together and making our commitments of it, we raise the probability of oncoming funding. So our action has also exterior consequences.
Okay.
My intent was not to be negative, it was just to be realistic.
Understand, yep.
Yeah,
Understand.
yeah, okay.
All good questions.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I don't think, yeah, no one, I don't think anyone is accusing you of being troublesome in this situation. We, you know, it's a great project and we're all in support of it, but we all do hold a level of optimism. But, you know, you always have to, no matter the situation. So things happen. Looks like everything's coming together, so hopefully we continue that. Questions, other questions or comments?
Anything in color is positive.
When it's not red, so.
Yeah. No red.
Bob, I hope you and I will be at the ribbon cutting in 2029.
2020.
And you'll be optimistic.
My kids will be too
Yeah,
old
in
to
the ribbon
partake in
cutting,
the.
I'll be optimistic. I guarantee it.
The courageous pessimist.
Make sure you have a pair of scissors.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Not hearing any. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is carried. And our next resolution, number 11, is establish a capital accounts design of JCC YMCA Wellness Center. So,
So this resolution is to specifically appropriate the money for the county's portion of the design, which, as Chairman Shagnon pointed out, is 1/4 of 1/2 of the overall design, estimated design costs of $1,560,000. So half of that amount will be paid for by the YMCA. So the JCC portion is $780,000, half of that paid by the state of New York. A quarter of it hopefully contributed from the county, and the final quarter will be contributed by JCC and/or local foundations.
and that amount is $195,000 for the county.
Correct. And just one other comment that as we've been discussing, the design, this would be the design of the entire project, all phases, YMCA, JCC. It is the design of the whole facility. And in preliminary discussions with some of the design consultants, we have indicated to them that we plan to do this in a phased approach so that overall design, it's the whole facility, but it needs to accommodate the phased implementation and construction.
So we are a quarter of a half, otherwise an eighth, and so the whole nut is about 1.5 million?
Correct.
It always boggles the mind what consultants cost.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is carried. Thank you. Next proposed resolution, number 12, is amend the 2025 budget for Chautauqua County Department of Emergency Medical Services, the EMT CPR training.
Oh, I signed that already.
Good morning, Sam Zafoto, Deputy Director of Finance.
Noel Gutman, Director of Emergency Services.
Yep, this resolution is a budget-neutral resolution for the EMS Subdepartment EMT CPR training. As we discussed last night at Public Safety, there's been increased interest in CPR classes. That's led to an increased amount of expense for the actual CPR cards being offset by the revenue from the classes, so it is budget-neutral.
That's great.
Okay.
More interest is great. We could always use the trained personnel, so. Questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Next proposed resolution, number 13, is to authorize agreement with Fluvanna Fire District to house Fly Car M74 and a paramedic.
Yeah, so when the Medic 74 flight car used to be at the Faulkner Fire Hall, and when we had to vacate that premises, we moved up to the Fluvanna Station 2. That's the station up by the airport. And that station for them was relatively unused with, they just stored some equipment there with no personnel there. With our personnel being there now 24/7, it has risen some expenses on their end, and they're asking us to cover the electric bill for us being there.
Yeah, how much is the electric bill?
I think we're estimating it like 150, 200.
Yep, that was the estimate we gave
A
last
month.
night too. Yeah,
Yeah.
we really don't have that information yet, but that's kind of the rough estimate of what it'll be.
And, the use of the electric, obviously, you're plugging in your vehicle for charging and utilizing the facilities, lights, all that sort of thing.
Yeah, just,
and-
literally it went from a pretty much an unoccupied building that was just storing equipment to being staffed 24/7, personnel, cooking
Yeah.
their meals, just, doing their computer work, paperwork,
Yeah, all
all the
sorts
stuff
of
that goes
things.
along with their daily activities, so.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you'll work on an agreement of how much that is and what the differences are, you know, if they're experiencing, you know, they've had the history, so they'll know, I guess, what the additional is, so. And we'll check it, so, okay. Questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, proposed resolution number 14 is authorized execution in New York State Office of Homeland Security Funding Grant Next Generation 911. This is for grant for the fiscal year 2025.
Hey, Beta Sheriff's Office.
What do we have in front of us this morning?
This is a new grant for the Sheriff's Office, excuse me, which will allow us to make upgrades to the 911 phone system and infrastructure. We did not budget for this in our 2025 budget, therefore a budget amendment is needed to add in the revenue under New York State aid of $1,515,197, and then add in the appropriation under contractual of $1,515,197. These funds will be completely encumbered in the year 2025.
Questions, comments?
What can the funds be used for? I mean, under the category like Homeland Security?
So this will be used to, basically, New York State is migrating and changing the 911 system over the next 5 to 10 years, and we will be using the funds to prepare for those changes. Specifically, we'll be migrating to a different call handling system that all of New York State will be moving to as well, called Vesta. And we'll be upgrading our call recording system as well as the servers that store that data. Those servers require refreshing every 5 years, and the last time we refreshed them was 2021.
Other questions or comments? One attention to detail is I understand you had introduced yourself as with the Sheriff's Department, but not as the undersheriff. And I just wanted to say that we were thankful for the time that you did put in. We understand your decision to not to step down from that position, but if the future holds the potential for you to return, we would welcome that return as well. So thank you for the time that you were serving as the undersheriff, and you know, everyone has choices they make for their family, so it's a choice that we will hold with you as well, so, and support you. So thank you.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Yeah. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next proposed resolution is number 15, which we do have an amended version that is in front of us that we will be discussing. It's the amended 2025 budget for Office of the Sheriff.
You ready, Dan?
Yes,
Okay,
go ahead.
sorry about that. This budget amendment is needed to offset expenses in several sub-departments within the Sheriff's Office. All expenses will be covered with excess revenue within the Sheriff's Office.
Questions, comments? Pretty straightforward, no large amounts here to, you know, that are eye-raising, so it's always good when one account can have a little bit of an overage and cover one that's got a little bit of an underage, so good job in the department to be able to find the funds and to be able to cover any changes. Questions, comments?
Yeah, I'm curious about the sale of property, 8,600, what did we sell? Do we, old cars?
I could get
or-
you, I could get you an exact answer, but my belief is it's old vehicles.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
We sell those periodically, and unfortunately, they don't exactly bring a lot of money.
Yeah, well, no, they.
Well, and in this
imagine
case,
take
they
a little
brought-
bit of abuse in the
Yes.
day-to-day work of what you guys do. Yeah.
Yes.
When in this case, they brought more than you anticipated, so
Yeah.
good deal, hopefully. Or you sold more than you thought you would.
Correct.
Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, and this is me again. To what extent, please, so we had the overruns on expenses. Before we just went to the revenue accounts, because presumably somebody did a really good job, generating this revenue, before we just turn around and spend it, were there other places in the expense side of the ledger that we could have cut to fund at least part of that $126,000, as opposed to just going straight to, the increased revenue? If you're going to make an expense budget overall, live to your expense budget, and if you beat your revenue budget, congratulations, but don't just go spend it.
Actually, I can answer that question. The easy answer to that is yes. They certainly have savings in other areas in their appropriations where they could cut that rather than acknowledging this excess of revenue. Regardless of which way it goes, at the end of the year, whether they save on their appropriations or they have an excess of revenue, that all goes back to the general fund balance. So in the grand scheme, it essentially ends up being a wash anyway. But they certainly do have savings in other areas in their appropriations. So
I understand that. The only word I would disagree with is in the grand scheme. In the accounting scheme, I absolutely get it.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Well, but also you look at the service, so if they want to save expenses on the Stop DWI program, it's just maybe not doing it for as long, or not doing it in such a manner that's as effective as it has been, and so I want them out there patrolling that, so spend the extra money in the area because it's needed. And you do receive some grant funding for that. It must there must be some extra coverages there that weren't anticipated, or you didn't receive revenue that you were expecting to receive because of unpaid fines and things of that nature. So there's other drivers to why the appropriation isn't coming in, or we're not covering our expenses. There's just so many faucets there. But yeah, I'm sure that, I think the office is certainly, as Jen stated, really working at trying to do the best they can with it, so. Other questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And our next proposed resolution is 16, is to authorize agreement with Town of Hanover for enhanced police protection services for the fiscal year 2027 and 2026 and 2027.
Longstanding agreement with the Town of Hanover that dates back to, I believe, 1988. The Sheriff's Office has negotiated a new contract with the Town of Hanover and Village of Silver Creek for another 2-year enhanced police protection contract. That contract will begin on January 1st of 2026. This has already been included in the 2026 budget, therefore no budget amendment is needed.
Okay. Questions, comments? Homework. Not hearing any. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And number 17, authorize agreement with various towns for enhanced police protective services for the fiscal year 2026.
Again, another long-standing agreement with the Town of Ripley for this one. 2-year agreement for part-time police coverage, $35,000 a year. This has also been included in the 2026 budget.
Questions, comments?
Nope.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. And our final proposed resolution today is number 18, which is to authorize agreement with the various towns for court security services for the fiscal year 2026.
We have negotiated new 2-year contracts with the towns of Kyantone, Stockton, Poland, and Mina for 2-year contracts that start January 1st of 2026. These have also been included in the 2026 budget, so no budget amendment is needed.
Okay.
Court security is an area, you specifically send a security officer to those places. And obviously, the courts have warranted the need and have asked and required, obviously above and beyond what, obviously, law enforcement that would typically be there and a typical nature of just, you know, needing to be there to cover their cases. So it must be a need for the additional enforcement is necessary.
Correct. I think it's up to the individual courts, obviously, and their concern to what you said is there might not be law enforcement there at one time or another, so they never know when we might be there or be in the area.
Yeah.
So that's their concern.
They want someone there full-time
That's what
to
they
be
want.
there.
Correct.
Not just a chance that, well, there, maybe an officer isn't there to handle their side of the cases or whatever, or be present for the ticket that they were issued or something.
Correct.
but- Okay. Questions, comments?
And this might be for another time, but have we consolidated some of our courts? Or have we, maybe it's happened or we've discussed it? I'm trying to
Good
think.
question. And actually, one of these, the Mina Court is comprised of the town of Sherman, town of Clymer, and town of
Okay.
Mina.
Mhm. Town of Carroll, is that by itself, or I could just see Carroll, Poland, Kyneton kind of consolidating?
Poland is still, obviously by this one, by itself, but certainly in the future, that, yeah,
Yeah. I
could
think
be an option.
See some savings by doing that. I
Right.
don't know how many cases are coming to those
Right.
town courts.
I know in the village, or Westfield, there's no more village courts, all in the town court.
Mm-hmm.
Town of Harmony and North Harmony merged their courts this year.
You're right,
Okay.
you're right.
Good.
In a reverse question of that, do you see any differences as far as efficiencies of a merged court on the sheriff department's side? You know, harder to make court cases, different various things. What's the ramifications of having those mergers in a?
I solely
If any.
opinion-based here.
Understood.
I would say, from a law enforcement standpoint, it's a far easier process.
Okay.
Less courts, less jurisdictions to issue court paperwork to, whether it's tickets or criminal cases, less courts to appear in, and so it's just a far easier process.
Understood.
The town of Mina Court, for example, you could have a case in Clymer, and town of Clymer, case in town of Sherman. They might go to court on the same night, whereas before, you'd have to go to two separate courts. So I think undoubtedly on the court side and the municipal side, it creates an efficiency that way, but on law enforcement, it certainly creates an efficiency that way.
So it's helpful.
Certainly.
In the sense that it's
Absolutely.
a more effective time management in sense too.
Absolutely.
So what you're also proposing is we may see a decrease in overtime expenditures for patrolmen to be visiting these courts, you know.
You very well
in
could.
travel expense, it really could.
Absolutely.
Put them back on the road for
Mhm.
doing the specific duties that they do need to do, you know.
Yes.
So. Okay. Questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe that is all the resolutions that we had on the agenda today that were brought forth in any form or manner. Brings us to an area of other on the agenda. Is there anything that anyone would like to bring up under other?
There was there's a presentation today, I believe, right?
So after the meeting's over, if you'd like to stay, we'd really like to walk through the presentation that we gave at the airport. If you weren't able to make that presentation, have both our consultants, CNS companies, and Casero, took its ready to join virtually. So if you were able to make it out to the airport, we certainly appreciated that. Don't expect you to stay. If you weren't able to make it out and you're interested, we prepared a presentation outside of this meeting.
Okay.
Okay. So-
Yeah, so I guess if there's nothing else under other, yeah, motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, just carried.
I'm gonna stay.
So, we are adjourned. Thank you for everyone coming today, and we will partake in the presentation.